Hello, hello. I want to make sure you all can see me and hear me. Um, I'm here. I'm here. And I'm happy that you're here. Uh, this is a wonderful, wonderful time of year. We are in the midst of many celebrations in this season. That's why we say happy holidays, because there are so many holidays. You can see and hear me. Thank you so much for checking that in, because you never know with me and technology. It just doesn't always work. So I'm so happy to be here to present a Kwanzaa teach-in. Um, a lot of people have a lot of questions about this holiday Kwanzaa. Some people have never heard of it before. It's over 60 years old, but a lot of people still haven't, heard of it. So I'm here. It's one of my favorite holidays to celebrate. And I have a little bit of knowledge, so I want to share it with you. As you can see from the moniker, the Sankofa Summer School, I am doing this as a part of the overall Sankofa Summer School, which I founded in 2021. It is an alternative education academy in which we teach people about the history and culture of people of the African diaspora. So I thought it was fitting to add this, and keep Sankofa Summer School going throughout the year. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, you're driving and you can hear. I love it. Let's do it. Okay. So if you see, it says I'm going to switch to my slides every now and then. I'm going to open them up because I worked on them. Why not? It says Heriza Kwanzaa, and that means happy Kwanzaa. Okay. All right. So what are we going to do today? Our workshop agenda today is we are going to discuss the origins of Kwanzaa. We are going to discuss the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles in practice. We're going to discuss some of the controversies around Kwanzaa, right? Because there are some. And we are going to discuss how to celebrate it and the importance of Kwanzaa today. So hopefully you get something out of this. And hopefully, I hope that people take this and, show it to others and share it with others so they get a bit of information, right? Each one teach one. All right. So the name Kwanzaa, right? Kwanzaa, is derived from the Swahili or Kiswahili phrase Matunda ya Kwanzaa, which means first fruits. It reflects the tradition of first fruits harvest celebrations in many African cultures, emphasizing unity, gratitude, and connection to the land. And so if we take this back, right, I'm an Afrocentric scholar. And so for us, everything begins in Africa. For everyone, everything should begin in Africa, as the origins of humanity are in Africa, right? This is something that we emphasize all the time. So if we think about it, right, we think about the people way, 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 way back in the day, as far as you can go. These were people who lived on the land. These are people who, especially the people who lived along the Nile River, right, before migrating to other places, believed in the power of water and the land and the harvest. This was very important. Their lives, revolved around the harvest. And so when they had the first harvest, this was a pretty big deal. And it was a time to celebrate, because this is how you eat, right? This is how you survive. And so that connection to the harvest, but also the connection to nature, is very, very, very important in African historical traditions, right? Okay, and again, I'm a little bit under the weather, y'all, so forgive me for this. Kwanzaa is a cultural holiday, right? That we understand, and I'm going to use my words carefully. We understand it to have been created in 1966 by Dr. Maulana Karenga, an African-American professor of Africana Studies. For those who don't know, he's at Cal State Long Beach and has been for many, many, many years. He is still actively a professor. I just saw him last year. I'll be seeing him again. No, saw him earlier this year. I'll be seeing him again in March at the National Council of Black Studies. I expect him to be there. Its origins lie in the aftermath of the Watts riots in Los Angeles. Okay, so if we go back to the Watts riots, there was a lot of upheaval, right? You have to think of this time, right? Malcolm X had been killed in 65. King would go on to be assassinated in 68. A lot of Black people were being taken in as political prisoners, a lot of freedom fighters. There was a lot of upheaval. And so on the West Coast, and I gotta shout out the West Coast in this, because the West Coast, Black folks in the West Coast, you think of the Panthers, you think of the early Black studies folks, were really about that revolutionary life, right? Challenging the systems and things like that. So those riots were really reflecting the frustration of people who wanted more for themselves, right? Again, it was a period marked by the heightened awareness of racial and social issues in the United States, right? Excuse me. So at the time, Dr. Karenga and others sought to establish a celebration that would honor African heritage and promote community, culture, and identity among African Americans. And I will, talk about this a little bit more later, but it is an African American holiday, and we should start there, right? That's really important to understand. But there's something that a lot of people do not know. And this will come up when we talk a little bit about the controversies, right? A lot of people like to make Kwanzaa about Dr. Karenga, and that's not a good idea, right? We don't make July 4th, when we get together with our families and we're having barbecue, we're not sitting there reflecting on the founding fathers because they were enslavers and they were sexual assailants. And these are people who thought it was okay to buy and sell other people, right? So we don't sit there eating in honor of them. When we get together on Thanksgiving with our families and loved ones, we're not sitting there thinking about the genocidal colonists who came and brought over all the diseases that wiped out like 90% of the native population. We're not sitting there and honoring them, right? We're getting together. So my hope is that we begin to divorce the holiday from any one individual, right? We could acknowledge history, but we have to allow the holiday to grow beyond that person, even if at times that person can be a little egotistical when it comes to it. I'm just saying a little bit, just a little bit. Okay, just we're gonna keep it real. We're gonna keep it real. All right. So I want you to think about this sister here. Okay, Mikinya Sibeko Kuote, right? Kuate, Queen Mother of Kwanzaa, and I have this QR code because there's a really great website. Berkeley Library has a lot of her papers, and this website gives a nice history of her and her contributions or what have you. The reason she is known as the Queen Mother of Kwanzaa is because she is the person who popularized Kwanzaa. And I would argue that she did more to popularize Kwanzaa than Karenga himself, right? And why is that important, right? So when you have a lot of people saying, well, I'm not going to celebrate Kwanzaa because it's connected to, Malanga Karenga, and I don't like X, Y, and Z. What you're essentially doing is erasing this sister, and she's transitioned and become an ancestor. You are erasing her and her contributions and her legacy. And when people talk about, well, it doesn't respect Black women to do that, you again are ignoring this woman who is the reason why Kwanzaa spread as it did. This woman traveled to like 40 states, I think it was like 38 or 40, 40 states to promote Kwanzaa in the communities, okay? Excuse me. She was on a personal mission to teach us how to celebrate this holiday. Karenga was not doing that, right? It is her early writings and her early texts that really laid a solid foundation. Now, there are some people who will say that he possibly stole it from her. I'm not going to get into this. I don't know. And I don't like to get involved too much into that part, right? But we do know that we have, and this is from that website that was in the last slide, we do know that there's early documentation of flyers and notes and things that she was creating, her papers that were laying a really important foundation for our understanding of what we now call Kwanzaa. And as you can see, and let me open it up a little bit, you can see Kwanzaa was once spelled with an A, just one A, not the two A's, right? And so that's also something that's part of the historical archives that's important to note, right? Okay. So this document, oh, I love this one. And I'm actually going to try to buy this for my own archive. This is probably the oldest or second oldest document that outlines the principles and symbols of Kwanzaa as a celebration and as a holiday. And guess who wrote it? She did. So I'm hoping that today you are learning something new, something maybe you hadn't heard about Kwanzaa. I've seen a lot of conversations about it, and I've been wanting to jump in, and I said, no, I'm going to save it for my Kwanzaa Teach-In. Okay, so we ought to honor, you know, our ancestor and the work that she did, and erasing her is really not helpful. It actually goes against a lot of what Kwanzaa is really about. Okay, all right, let's see what else we got here. All right, so I want to get into the 7 principles. Now, this is probably what some of you are familiar with, right? This is, you know, the 7 principles, the Nguzo Saba. They each represent things that we are supposed to reflect on, right? So the first one is Umoja, right? It represents unity, to strive and maintain unity in the family, in the community, you know, and in our, hold on, I'm going to play this, family, community, nation, and our race, okay? How you think about nation, how you think about race, we could have those conversations. I think there was a Black nationalist consciousness that was going on. So this idea that Black people deserve their own nation was very prevalent at this time, right? Kind of where Black nationalism comes in. I'm going to play this clip. Please let me know in the chat if you can hear it. I want to make sure that it's...
Why do Black people all stick together?
Let me know if you...
The perception that Black Americans stick together can be attributed to shared cultural and historical experiences, particularly in contexts where they have faced systemic challenges and discrimination. This sense of solidarity often stems from a common history marked by struggles such as slavery, segregation, and ongoing racial injustices, which fosters mutual understanding and support. Additionally, cultural bonds through traditions, music, and family values play a significant role in strengthening community ties. In environments where Black people may be marginalized or underrepresented, there is a compelling need for collective support, advocacy, and a unified voice to address issues of inequality, discrimination, and fair representation. However, Black people are not monolithic and encompass a wide range of diverse perspectives, experiences, and beliefs.
Okay. So let me come back here. So I wanted to show that because this is really how we think about unity, right? Why are Black people so unified, right? We often we joke around, you know, and I've heard white people say this, like, white people don't have community. And there are some groups that do. I would argue that Italians, I always say Italians do. I would argue that Greeks do. I would argue that Irish do, right? But white Americans, you know, their community is the police. They don't really have much community. But why do Black people tend to have this kind of community? It is because of our collective and shared experiences. And while they say that we are not monolithic, right, I think that there's a nuance around that conversation, but there are many ways in which we are united and we are unified culturally, right? And it's important to remember that. Just really quickly, somebody asked, will it be able to watch back? Yes, it's going to be on YouTube, so you can watch it, you can share it, all those kinds of things. So yes, you can do that. All right, so that's unity. Unity is the first day, right? That's how we start the whole thing. We are reflecting on unity, right? A lot of times I think about this in terms of the so-called diaspora wars, right? The fights between, you know, people from the continent, people from the United States, people from the Caribbean, South America, people in Europe. It's like, we're all the same, y'all. It just dropped us off at different ports. Like we all come from the same places. So we have to have our unity. That is the only way we will achieve liberation, right? There is no liberation without unity. All right, this is an important one, Kujichagulia, which is today. I know that is a difficult word. It's hard for some people. It is Kujichagulia. You can say it where you are. Kujichagulia. Say it with me. Kujichagulia, okay? It's very simple. Kujichagulia, okay? Say it like 10 times fast and you'll get it. It is about self-determination, to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. And I'm going to take it to my man, my homie, Dr. Martin Luther the King. Listen to what he has to say real quick.
And I come here tonight and plead with you. Believe in yourself and believe that you're somebody. As I said to a group last night, nobody else can do this for us. No document can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Kennysonian or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, He must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation.
Okay, so Dr. King said, right? And it's so funny to me, right? Because the white folks love to invoke Dr. King and try to use this whitewashed version they have of him. But Dr. King was very much focused on our self-determination, right? He always believed that we had the right and the responsibility to free and liberate ourselves. Okay. And that's really important. And I also like to expand this idea of self-determination to our trans brothers and sisters and our people and our non-binary folks and things like that. Like, we are dealing at a time when people are saying, oh, I'm not going to call you this name. You were born with this name, and I'm not going to respect your name. I'm not going to respect your pronouns. I'm not going to respect your identity. I'm not going to respect all of these things. We cannot be like that. We cannot do that. Every single human being has the right to self-determination, right? And we should honor and respect people as they are. And that's it. That's the bottom line. Like, it's not that hard. I don't know why people make it so daggone hard. All right, let's go. Then we have Ujamaa. Okay, Ujamaa. Emphasis on the Ujamaa. Okay. And Ujamaa is collective works and responsibility. And I have this little clip I want you to see. And let's get into some Ujamaa.
The Panthers put their revolutionary rhetoric into action. They developed community programs offering care and clothing to the needy and free breakfast for children.
Did you have breakfast here this morning?
Yes,
How long has it been since you've had a hot breakfast?
a long time.
Did the Panthers embrace a willingness to use arms to defend themselves? Absolutely. Unfortunately, that's usually the only part of the story that we get. Even more energy was expended on the part of the Panthers in social programs.
The trouble was, the Panthers could feed all the children they wanted to, but America wasn't going to tolerate Black people standing up to the police.
And so I just wanted to play that little clip because, it's a little sample of, like, when we talk about organizations like the Black Panthers, right? And kind of what they meant culturally and historically. A lot of people forget that they were doing very serious and needed community work, right? They were taking care of the people in their communities. They were taking care of their children and the elders and, the sick and the needy, right? They were giving out food. They were raising money. They would sell, books and other things. They would sell buttons and newspapers and all these kinds of things to raise money to be able to do that, right? So we're talking about collective work and responsibility. Ujamaa is about maintaining our communities together, making our brothers and our sisters and our families' problems our problems, and solving them together, okay? So again, when we talk about mutual aid, right? When we are online and we see people and they are seeking mutual aid. I recently had, a lot of issues with car situations and things like that. And people came through and they made donations as little as $1. And I'm telling you, every single dollar of that was able to help me in that situation. And so that's the kind of thing that we talk about. Mutual aid is this idea of collective works and our responsibility. We understand I am because we are. Okay, that is a Ubuntu principle. I am because we are. And because we are, therefore I am. Right. And that is deeply rooted in African cultural tradition, that we do not exist as individuals. Right. That rugged individualism is a completely European Western concept. OK, Africans understand that we exist because of everyone around us. Right. OK, so let's move on to Ujamaa. Ujamaa is about cooperative economics, building and maintaining our own stores, our shops, our businesses, right? This idea of keeping the money within our communities, right? When we talk about the spending power of, African Americans, for example, our money is so quick to leave our communities. And that's because of white supremacy. And that is because of how much we are beholden to corporations and things like that. And it's like, okay, we should be supporting each other. And this is not a boost for Black capitalism. Please understand that we are not talking about that. We're talking about like the perspective I take. If there's anything that I want or need, I know there's a Black woman somewhere that makes it, right? So I do the extra steps and the extra work to go and find a Black woman who does this thing. I need some new earrings. I need, some kind of sticker or something. I need a new pen set. I need some dishes or something like that. My first step is to try to see, if I go online, if I go to Etsy, if I go to these little shops online, who can I find? Can I find a Black woman that can do it? If not a Black woman, can I find a queer Black person that does it? If not that, can I find a Black cishet man that does? I kind of have these like rankings of how I go about my purchasing. I don't like go to Walmart, for example. And I understand that for many people, Walmart is the only option, but Walmart actually hates us. They make it clear that they do. And so sometimes it just takes a little bit more effort, right? A little bit more planning, a little bit more patience to be able to support each other. You understand what I'm saying? So and I don't want people to mistake that. And if you have your devices out, in the spirit of that, Sankofa Summer School is the school that I founded 3 years ago. And we run every year, and I'm very happy that people want to support us. So you can scan that, make a donation if you want. The money goes towards paying our instructors. This last year, we tested a new model of not having people pay to register. We want to make sure that it is accessible to everyone. So all the money that we raise does go towards paying our instructors, because we do believe that Black people should be compensated for their intellectual labor and their time. Okay. So that's if you want to do that, you don't have to do that. Right? Okay. So we think about something like NIA. NIA is the next one. It's purpose, to make a collective vocation, the building and developing of our, excuse me, I'm sorry, y'all. The building of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. And this is an interesting thing because, I always ask people this question, like, what is your purpose? And I'm 45 years old, and I long ago realized that my purpose was to help people. Ever since I was a little girl, I knew that I wanted to help people. And I spent a good chunk of my adult life as a social worker, social work administrator, counselor, therapist, all those kinds of things, helping people, right? Getting people off the streets, helping people that wanted to stop using drugs, stop, helping people reconnect with their families and all those things. I understood that to be my purpose. And even as I get older and I refine it, it's like, okay, so one of my purposes is to liberate Black women and girls, right, from the tyranny of misogyny and racism, right? These are things that I think about all the time. And my work is really focused towards that. I want to change the image of Black women and girls and how we see them. That's why I focus a lot on the media now. And it's like the depictions of us and things like that. And so I would ask you all, like, kind of reflecting, you can put it in the chat if you want to, you don't have to. If you're watching at home, what is your purpose? What do you do every day? What gets you out of bed if you're able to get out of bed? What wakes you up in the morning? And what do you think about that you can't stop thinking about? What is something you strive towards, right? For us, for Kwanzaa, we think about the ways in which we can have a purpose within our communities and make those contributions to improving our lives, right? But it can go beyond that, right? So we just want you to think about that. All right, so the next one we have is Kuumba. Kuumba is one of my favorites. For those of you that are watching and you're the creative types, this is your day. This is your day. Kuumba is about creativity, to do always as much as we can in the way that we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it, right? And so I have a picture here of a wreath that I made, right? I didn't buy this, I made this. I'm a DIY girly, okay? I'll admit that. I love crafting and designing things. So some of us are visual artists, some of us are writers, some of us are, can tell these wonderful stories, spoken word artists, poets. Some of us paint and draw, excuse me. Some of us dance. Some of us build beautiful homes for people, right? Think about what makes you creative, right? I think everybody has a little creative touch in them. So we think about, how do we make our communities more beautiful? How do we contribute? Black music, for example, if you think about it, like American music is by and large Black music, right? America does not have much music to export that does not begin with African Americans, right? So we think about that. How do we beautify our world? Thank you very much. I appreciate the compliments in the chat on my wreath. I love it. I was so proud of this. I was like, yay. I said, maybe next year I'll start making them. See, cooperative economics. Next year I'll make some Kwanzaa wreaths. If you want them, you can buy them. I'll start making some Kwanzaa decorations. I'm thinking about doing that for next year. And you all can support my little Etsy business or something. Although I heard that Etsy is aligning with Zionists. But anyway, so of course we're going to have a technical difficulty. Why wouldn't we have a technical difficulty? But anyway, the final we have Imani, which is faith. I don't know why it's not loading, but it's okay. Technical glitches are what they are. But the final one is Imani, and it is faith. And what we do, like a lot, this is where people I think sometimes get a little confused, okay? Because Imani is really about the faith we have in ourselves, the faith we have in the people around us, the faith we have in our communities, the faith we have in our people, and the victorious consciousness, right? If you've ever been to like a protest in the last, like say 5 to 10 years, you might often hear a chant that's like, I believe, and people will respond, I believe, and then they say that we will win. Right? I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. And it's a victorious consciousness. Dr. Molefi Asante talks about this all the time. And a lot of times he signs his emails, in victory and things like that. This idea that we have this collective consciousness. But then there is also an acknowledgement that we're all of different faiths. A lot of people have different spiritual walks, right? And so I put up, a bunch of them, whether you're a Muslim or you practice an African traditional religion like Ifa or Vodun, whether you are Buddhist, you could be Catholic, you could be Wiccan, you can be atheist, you could be a Satanist. It doesn't honestly, it's all about your own spiritual practices and your own faith. What do you have faith in? What do you believe in? Right? And making sure that what you believe in edifies you. Make sure that it represents and serves you. You understand? So that's what we're thinking about when it comes to that. Apologize for the technical glitch. I'm an Aries, so I'm going to be really pissed off about this. So now I want to get a little into the controversies. I'm actually not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I find it to be quite exhausting. So there's controversies, right? Okay, if we talk about Dr. Karenga. So in short, Dr. Karenga went to jail. He went to prison, having been convicted of assault. Well, no, it was involuntary kidnapping or an assault, kidnapping and assault or something like that. It's not what it wasn't like torturing Black women, right? And so what happened, according to various sources, according to different people, what they think happened, and this is all I'm going to give. Again, I wasn't there. I'm only sharing what I know and giving you a little bit of context. So if we go back to the 1960s and 70s, right? This is a time when a lot of Black Power movement was starting to happen. Dr. King even wrote a bit about the Black Power movement, how he understood it. And he understood that the young people were really growing frustrated with things, right? So the Black Power movement emerges, and you do get the Panthers, and you do get these other groups that are all trying to, everybody has the same goal, right? And that's the liberation of Black people. But some groups garnered more attention from the government than others. The Panthers were definitely a target. I don't know how many of you saw, what's that film about Fred Hampton? That was Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. Judas and the Black Messiah. Excuse me. I don't know if you saw that film. It was okay. But it tells a story about, a Black man who was infiltrating the Black Panthers, and that consequently led to the murder of Fred Hampton. This was rampant. The FBI's infiltration of the Panthers was rampant. I read that it got to a point where 1 in every 3 Panthers was a plant from the FBI. There was a lot of paranoia growing among the activists and the people that were working in there. There was, COINTELPRO did a number on folks, turned people against people, started rumors, oh, so-and-so did this. You got to look up Bunchy Carter, look at some other folks. It's like, well, this person did this and said this about you, and they're trying to kill you. No, they're trying to kill you. There was a lot of that going on. And a lot of people were paranoid. Some people to the point where like they were on the fritz. And I believe that Karenga was one of those people. And so what you may not understand, and this doesn't often get talked about, and again, please don't take this as I'm making any excuses for Dr. Karenga. I actually wrote a piece about this, and I'll put it in the comments so that you could go and read this. What do you do when you suspect that someone among your ranks is a traitor? What do you do, right? What do they do in the military, right? That's what they have, prisoners of war. They have all these things. They have, they take people in as spies, espionage. It's a thing, right? We make movies, we watch about those. What do you do when you believe that someone has infiltrated your ranks, right? How does the group handle that? Well, collectively, they had some really radical approaches to handling people they suspected as traitors. You may not know that Huey and Bobby kind of went at each other a little bit, that there was violence between them, ordered by them, right? People were beaten, people were tortured, people had a lot of tactics used against them when they were suspected of being the ops. This still happens to this day, just so y'all know. Communities root out people that they believe are the ops. And there is some belief that this is what happened. Again, I'm only giving you that perspective because it's one that I've heard and that it's a possibility. But I'm actually going to let you hear it from him in his own words. Okay, this is going to be Dr. Karenga speaking about this issue. I'm not going to play the whole 4 minutes, but you'll hear enough.
I put it, the most favorable argument is that you were afraid of a Panther hit and that you were also afraid of the extent to which the FBI and police forces had infiltrated us. And the argument goes that you became paranoid and that you were searching for the mole, for the snitches, and you began to have members tortured. And amongst the members that you tortured were a couple of women. Now, that allegation continues to circulate. How do you respond to that allegation?
The way I've always, I'm not guilty of the state's charges. I've always maintained my innocence. I'm a victim and a survivor of the COINTELPRO, right? And if you read the history of the trial, and Halisi, Imamu Halisi has an article on a black leader in captivity from the during the in the Black Scholar, you could read this, you know. And
you know I done read it.
Yeah.
So we talk to the other people.
Yeah, I appreciate your knowing that. And the charges made against me were first made against somebody else. But the woman that was finally given immunity had a case against her. And see, it's hard for me to say these things because first thing people, oh, you're blaming the victim. No, wait a minute. There's no victim here. And this person actually, people say it's two people, but actually, I was found guilty by the state of one person, and it was for false imprisonment and force. So the reality is that I'm sacrificed, and the history of this is that it's a rare brother and a sister in the early organization was not approached by the police to set me up, and so they wanted to. This was in San Diego as well. We in our organization history, we have those people talking about that. And the charge again was assault with force and false imprisonment. And they had 4 years out of my life. And they told me, look, if you confess, you can get out early, because it was an indeterminate sentence from 6 months to 10 years, right? That's California.
Repeat that.
It was 6 months to 12 years, right? 10 years, 6 months to 10 years. Okay. They said to me, they came to me several times, if you confess, right, and say you can get out earlier. I said, I'm not. You can keep me alone. The only reason I got out early, you know, and they did everything to me. I need to tell about my political imprisonment because people don't even know. I was in the hole, put in the hole for a whole year. I didn't have any. light, sunlight, and all that was gone. I had a hole in the floor for a toilet, right? A dirty, filthy.
So I wanted to just let you hear, right? Because either we're going to tell the story, we're going to not tell the story, right? And so there are a lot of things that are said about Dr. Karenga from people who have never even heard his voice, right? Again, I'm not taking any sides. I'm not taking any stance on this, actually. But I'm presenting what I know. I actually read the article that he's talking about in the Black Scholar. And you hear what this has been his story the entire time. And so I don't know. Was he a victim of COINTELPRO? I don't know. Did he torture these people? I don't know. Could he have? Yes. I mean, that's what a bunch of them were doing at the time. If they believed that somebody had infiltrated, if they believed someone was a traitor, they were likely going to be tortured. That's how they handled those things, right? But again, that's all I can say. But what I'd like us to remember and consider is that even if he did everything that people have said, because you could actually go and look up the court records, it's public information. You could go and see what he was actually charged with and things like that. Understand that this man did go to prison, and I'm an abolitionist, I'm against all of that anyway, but for the sake of our argument, this man went to prison. This man served time. As he said, he was in solitary confinement for a year, okay? A week of solitary confinement is torture. A month is, I mean, look at what they've said about it. The man was in solitary confinement for a year. He came out of prison and he went back to the work that he was doing. And since then has been actually pretty low key, believe it or not. Still got a pretty big ego, but started to move a little bit towards the multiculturalism stuff, which I'm kind of like, okay, brother, we could take that or leave that. But he hasn't done anything else, right? So for those of us that talk about restorative justice, for those who talk about community care, for those who talk about those things, right? If I look at a person like a Mike Tyson, for example, and I know that's controversial to talk about it, but other people who have been accused of, convicted of, these kinds of heinous things and have done their time, who are they after that, right? And that's what I think about with Karenga. I'm like, well, who has he been after that? I mean, he's at Cal State Long Beach. He teaches. He publishes things about Black studies. I mean, he's one of the architects. And people say, oh, no, he's not an architect. I say, no, he's actually one of the foundational people of Black studies, and that whole movement to bring Black studies about. And to deny that is kind of ridiculous. So do we throw away the entire Black studies discipline because of Karenga, who had an integral role in developing it? No, we don't. Similarly, we do not throw away the concept of Afrocentricity because at some point, Dr. Asante was anti-LGBTQ. He has evolved and grown and apologized for his former stances and has taken on a key role. One of the reasons why I'm able to do what I do right now is because Dr. Asante has deferred to me and my expertise, and he has learned a lot from me. This is, again, father of Afrocentricity, right? Learning from me. People can grow, people can change, and we have to think about who we are. But as I said earlier, and this is an important point that I want to make, we cannot make the entire celebration of Kwanzaa about one person. If we did that with every single holiday, we would not have any holidays to celebrate. And I think we need to stop being hypocritical when people say, well, I'm not going to celebrate it because of him. As I said earlier, you're erasing a Black woman. And in many ways, some people are using this as an excuse to not celebrate Kwanzaa because they are uncomfortable. A lot of people have cultural insecurity. They don't know how to celebrate Kwanzaa. And that's why we're going to segue into this next part. Okay. So how do we celebrate Kwanzaa? Okay. Well, so we start by, setting up our table, right? So for those of you that understand African traditional religions, a lot of our stuff that we do is we have altars. Altars are kind of portals and welcoming spaces for our ancestors to come and to, we support our ancestors in the next realm. And so a lot of times I like to think of a Kwanzaa table as a bit of an altar, honoring our ancestors, honoring those who harvested those first fruits, who kept us nourished, who fought and survived, and things like that. So on your table, You will have the mazao, which are the crops, right? These are symbolic of the African harvest celebrations and of the rewards of a productive and collective labor. So you put out some fruits and some vegetables, excuse me. You have the mikeka, which is the mat. It's a symbolic of our tradition and history, and therefore the foundation on which we build. Very simple mat. Oftentimes it is a straw mat. You have, or a woven mat. You have the muhindi, which is the corn. It's symbolic of our children and the future in which they embody. I have corn on my table right now. I didn't put my fruit out yet because I tend to get fruit flies, but I am having a Kwanzaa event tomorrow, and tomorrow morning I'm going to get my basket and kind of put that there. Kikombe cha umoja, the unity cup, is symbolic of the foundational principle and the practice of unity, which makes all else possible. And I want to point out that some of these things are borrowed from different traditions that already exist, right? If you go to a traditional Catholic mass, right, they have people drink from the same cups, and they are taking the Eucharist and from drinking from the same cup. For example, the kinara that exists there. Let me move to this next slide. The kinara, for example, the candle holder, like people will see that, they'll think of the menorah that is celebrated with Jewish folks. The kinara predates the menorah. Everything African predates everything that is Jewish. But, in the sense of whether or not that was borrowed, I think it probably was. So the kinara is the candle holder. It's symbolic of our roots, our parents, our people, continental folks in the continent. The seven candles, the Mushuma Saba, these are symbolic of the Nguzo Saba, which we just talked about, unity, Kujichagulia, all those things. Matrix and minimum set of values, which African people are urged to live by in order to rescue and reconstruct their lives in their own image and according to their own needs. And I'm getting all of this directly from the official Kwanzaa website, so you know where I'm getting this. If you want to know about Kwanzaa, the official Kwanzaa website.org, I believe it is. So it teaches you here how to light the candles. So you'll light the black candle first, and you do that on the first day. And then you use the black candle to light the other candles, right? And so day 2, you light the one for the first, the closest red one for Kujichagulia. Then the next day, which is day 3, which is going to be tomorrow, you light it for Ujima. Then you go back and you light the next red one for Ujama. Then you go back and you light the ones for Nia, and so forth, right? And so each day when you light the candles, you can just have a moment of reflection. It's literally like, you all know how to meditate. A lot of you say, oh, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to journal. I'm going to sit quiet. I'm going to do those things. Sometimes it's just about meditating. You light a candle and you meditate. Those of you that are Catholic, you go to the church and you light the candle, right? You go in there and you reflect. Those of you who light candles at your altars for your who practice African traditional religions, you light a candle at your altar, you reflect. It's a beacon, right, for your ancestors. And these are the kinds of things that we think about. Jewish people, they'll light their candles in reflection. So sometimes it's just a moment of silence, and you're just kind of reflecting, like, how can I be more self-determined? How can I do more to find my purpose, right? How can I do more to bring about unity in my family and in my people? I love this. Cultural insecurity is a new phrase to me, and I'm thankful to now have it in my vocab to give context to why some folks reject African-centered practice. Yes, I just started using it not too long ago because I was really like boggling my mind, like what is going on? I said, this is cultural insecurity. And that's to be expected. So you have to understand African Americans are displaced. People who are not on the continent or who were born in places around the world, we are dislocated. That's what Dr. Asante's location theory, please look that up. This idea that we are dislocated from our homeland. We have been removed from our homeland, and they did everything to brainwash us, to remove our cultural tradition, our cultural understanding from our brains. Europeans waged psychological warfare on African people for the purposes of making us subservient to their capitalist intentions and their imperialist intentions. So we don't know who we are. And all of our efforts, right? Me, a doctor of Africology and African American studies, all of our efforts are to reclaim that. So we go back and we study it. Sankofa principle, go back and fetch it. That's what my Sankofa Summer School is named after. Go back, fetch it, and bring it forward. That's the full meaning of Sankofa. We have to fight for that. So there are a lot of people who are culturally insecure because they're just like, I just don't know who I am. You know how many African Americans can't name anybody beyond their great grandparents? that's an insecure place to be in, right? And we find sometimes, unfortunately, people from the continent or people from the Caribbean or things like that make fun of or chastise African Americans, saying you have no culture, you have no lineage. Well, we absolutely do. We have the same lineage as all of you. We are just dislocated. And so in these kinds of celebrations and in these kinds of events and holidays and things like that, it is our attempt to go back and fetch it and bring it forward, right? And I think that that's really important for people to understand. All right. So other ways that we celebrate, we get together with our families, right? You get together with families and our friends. Tomorrow, like I said, I've mentioned this a few times, I'm hosting a Kwanzaa event, small event, and having folks come over. We're going to do a gift exchange. So for Kwanzaa, we don't necessarily go and buy gifts. You can, but it's preferable that it's a handmade gift, something thoughtful, right? You could write someone a letter. You could put a flower arrangement together, maybe from your garden or something like that. You can make someone some food, right? Just those kinds of things. You can paint a picture. You can do those kinds of things, kind of handmade gifts. But if you do go and buy something, probably something that's culturally relevant, one of the best gifts to give for Kwanzaa is books, right? Books by Black authors, books about Black cultural traditions, right? Okay. So another thing that we do is we eat, right? Black people gonna eat. We're gonna cook and we're gonna eat. But what's the significance of the foods that we eat, right? So we eat a lot of yams. The yams come from the continent. We eat a lot of foods that came from the continent and came with us to the so-called New World, right? Yams, okra, rice, things like that are from the continent that we were able to replicate here. We eat more macaroni and cheese. I've noticed in like the last 10 to 20 years, more people are eating macaroni and cheese in honor of the brother, his name escapes me right now, but it's one of it was Hemmings, one of Thomas Jefferson's people that he enslaved, that he took with him as he traveled, and he learned about, he learned from the Italian cooks, came back and brought macaroni and cheese back here. So some more people have been doing that to honor him. We have tropical fruits, right, to represent our family and in the Caribbean, right, and the diaspora. Everything is diaspora focused, right? And so if you look at the last dish, we do incorporate foods that have the colors red, black, and green. Red, black, and green, RBG. So something like black-eyed peas, collard greens, peppers, tomatoes, things like that. That also ties in with our hoodoo traditions of eating black-eyed peas and collard greens for good luck and good fortune in the new year. Okay, so all of this is all tied. Hopefully people are starting to see the connections here. So I have some frequently asked questions. Does Kwanzaa replace Christmas or any other holidays? And before I get into this, if you have questions, now is the great time to put them in the chat and I will answer them as they come up. Any questions about anything that I've said, anything that's been on your mind, no question is, silly or anything, please put it in the chat. But here's a few frequently asked questions. Does Kwanzaa replace Christmas or any other holidays? The simple answer is no. You can celebrate Kwanzaa and Christmas and Kwanzaa. Part of why Kwanzaa starts the day after Christmas is to not interfere with Christmas. The understanding is that many of us will be celebrating Christmas, does not want to take away from that. It ends on New Year's Day, the final celebration, that it's a celebration of faith, the faith that we have in ourselves for the coming new year. That is super important to us. Is Kwanzaa anti-religious? No, absolutely not. There are people who say it's anti-Christian. It is against, Christian values. It's against religious values. It's not. It's absolutely not. There are people of all different walks of life who celebrate Kwanzaa. Is Kwanzaa for African Americans only for African Americans? That's a really great question. And I put it there because there's going to be people that are going to disagree on this, right? My answer is a bit nuanced. It is an African-American holiday. It originates with us, same way hip-hop originates with us, same way rock music and jazz music originate with us. Juneteenth originates with us, right? I encourage people from across the diaspora to celebrate it, however. Excuse me. I was about to sneeze, sorry. I do encourage people across the diaspora to celebrate it. Many people across the diaspora do celebrate it. There are people on the continent that celebrate it, people in the Caribbean that celebrate it. You can do that. Should white people celebrate Kwanzaa? I'm going to say no. There's people that do not agree with that. Okay. So that's just my personal stance. There's no reason for you to celebrate it, right? This is something about African Americans and their connection to their cultural identity. You do not have that. Now, if you're biracial, okay. But, sometimes white people, y'all gotta let us have, our thing. I'm just saying. Okay. So let me see. Hold on one second. Sorry, my kid was knocking on the door, y'all. I don't know. Can you please repeat the name of the author of Dislocation Theory? Oh, Molefi Asante. Molefiasante. How can single people celebrate Kwanzaa if their families and friends don't? Then it becomes the personal reflection, right? Wherever you are, you can build, you can have your table, you can set it up as an altar, you can put it on the table in your home if you want. Again, this is really about a daily kind of reflection time. So if you don't have all the accoutrement, that's fine. Like if you can't set up a table or what have you, maybe, especially like for people that are limited on funds, again, we emphasize the idea of building things and making things from scratch or what have you. But maybe every year you just collect something new. Like I know that I like this Odunde Festival in Philadelphia every year. It's it's the largest, I should say, kind of African festival in the United States. You can go there and like, if this is in the summertime, I think that's where I got like both of my Kanaras. There's places you can order online that have them like inexpensive. You can get one for like $10 or less. You can go to Michael's. I just went to Michael's. I got, because I didn't have my Unity candle and they were having a sale. I got my Unity candle for like $1, right? So there's ways that you do that. But yeah, you can set up your Kanara just for yourself. Like you really can do that. Or you can come online, or you can kind of come into these spaces, because there are definitely online spaces where people have like virtual Kwanzaa celebrations. Look in your local community. You'd be surprised if you Google Kwanzaa celebrations near me, how many people are actively having them. Right now we're going into the weekend. Today is a great day to see. I don't know where you are, but I see, you can go right now and just say what's happening this weekend. And most of the time the stuff is free, right? I know if you're in Philly, the African American Museum of Philadelphia, the oldest Black museum in the country, is having a whole series, a whole week of of celebrations. In DC, I know you'll find a lot there. Like just anywhere Black people are, you're gonna find some kind of Kwanzaa celebration. So go as a single person and go meet some new people, make some connections, and then be within your own community. I think that's a great question. Yes, they are. Are Wonder Bread white people celebrating Kwanzaa? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I understand, you know what? I'm going to say this. I don't think that they're doing it with any malicious intentions. I think that they're doing it just, they're trying to be nice. They're trying to be woke, I guess. You know what you can do? You know what white people can do? They can help out folks like the last person and kind of donate to them and help, or buy somebody a Kanara or something. But anyway, I hope that this meant something for you. If you had questions, anybody else have any more questions? Oh yeah, it's definitely giving performative. We don't want that. Okay, so we did the questions. All right, so if you do support my work, it's always nice if you give a donation. I had put online the suggested donation is $10, but it's pay what you can. If you can't pay anything, if zero is what you could pay, then zero is what you pay. I'm just happy that you're here to watch and to learn from someone like me, somebody who's sharing the knowledge that I have. Maybe you learned something new today, but if you have the opportunity and would like to make a donation to this, I really appreciate it. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that you were here. I'm so grateful that you took your time. For those of you that are watching it later on, I'm so grateful that you watched this entire thing. And as I said, I hope that you learned. Please share it. Please like it. Like this video. Please share it with as many people. Share it on your social media so that people can watch it over the next few days so they can learn a little bit more about Kwanzaa, the traditions, the history, and the things like that. I am Dr. Michelle Taylor, occasionally known as Feminista Jones, and I am also the founder of Sankofa Summer School. My goal is the liberation of my people, and I do that through education. And so thank you for all the support that you do. I will continue to do things like this because we're not free until we're all free, right? None of us is free until all of us are free. All right. So thank you so much. I appreciate you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening and your weekend. And happy Kwanzaa, everybody.